And we'll go to the panel on this decision by Chris Bowen to reject an invitation to join a nuclear energy pact. Peter Dutton slamming Labor over this decision, as he should, says it's making us an international embarrassment. The Australian's Environment Editor, Graham Lloyd, says it's raising concerns that this decision will sabotage our involvement in next-generation nuclear research at a time when the rest of the world's embracing it. Let's bring in the panel. Environment Minister, Shadow Environment Minister Jonathan Duniam, and the wonderful broadcaster Lucy Zelic. Well, welcome to you both. Jono, just on, I think Jono's being set up. Lucy, just on this issue of nuclear, how damaging do you think it is?
So damaging. And I think we just continue to embarrass ourselves, as Peter Dutton has rightfully said, on the world stage with respect to this. I mean, you only have to cast your mind back to COP28, coming up to close to this time last year, where we had over 30 nations commit to tripling their commitment, tripling their commitment to nuclear energy. And that was a declaration that so many of these powerful economies were getting behind. And Australia is desperately lagging in this situation. I mean, Peter, what we're really seeing with respect to this issue, and I've seen this commentary kind of bandied about quite regularly on this subject in this past week alone, is that this particular issue is being politicised over progress. And it concerns me greatly because I think, A, Australia is going to get left behind, and B, we're in a situation where this is becoming more about our politics and this commitment to this, this infatuation that the left side of government have with climate change and green energy and all of this sort of stuff, and renewable energy, which we've seen thanks to our colleague at Sky News, Chris Uhlmann, and his documentary overnight, that it's not going to be the most
brilliant.
And it's really concerning now that it's going to be, a very divided nation come the election.
You're not wrong, Lucy. Jono, I've got to ask you, because I know you've just sat down in the chair. You were late coming to us because, quite properly, you're in the chamber speaking to the motion that you and Senator Price are moving, and you hope that you'll get up this inquiry. It'll go to a vote tomorrow. But you want all of these cultural heritage laws. We're seeing it with Mount Arapiles. We've seen it with Mount Warning and others. You want an urgent inquiry into these, I can't even call them processes. I mean, they're laws in some states. Tell us more.
Yeah, so, and I apologise for being late. I hate being late for anything, but it was for a good reason. And as you say, we've just concluded debate. We'll divide on it tomorrow, so we'll have a vote on it tomorrow. And as you would expect, Labor and the Greens are opposing this. Now, this is just an inquiry. And let's not forget, Labor promised that ahead of the last election, we'd have new cultural heritage laws in this country by the end of this term. We don't, and we are seeing these decisions like the one we saw with the McPhillamys gold mine, where, of course, the billion-dollar gold mine, 800 jobs goes begging because of, frankly, some of the most ridiculous, outdated laws that I have seen in a very long time. Now, the emotive language that you see from people like the Greens, who say this will open up the floodgate for conspiracy theories to, and in these racially loaded terms, whitewash cultural heritage laws and drill into the soul of traditional owners. I mean, it was just mad. It's an inquiry to look at the laws, state and federal, see how they're broken and how they can be fixed. We're trying to do what the government won't so that we don't see a repeat of these disastrous decisions at a state and federal level happening all over the place.
Lucy, you're out in the real world. I want a real world check on this. Bunnings under fire today for using facial recognition technology in the stores. People may not realise this. They often wear a camera on their apron. You get to the checkout, you make a payment. They're photographing you, they're analysing your face. If you've breached the treatment of their staff in some way and you're on a banned list, that will ring a bell. But basically, we're all being photographed and our images are being stored. Bunnings says, well, we think this is really important about protecting our staff. Other people are saying, no, this goes well beyond protecting your staff. Where do you sit?
I sit with this as pretty scandalous. And the reason for that being, if they didn't have any ill intentions and the motivations were, which I genuinely believe at the core of this, it was about, trying to stamp out crime and theft, which they've seen an uptick in, and to try and stay on top of this and to police that and to also protect their staff. If those were the genuine motivations and there was nothing sinister behind it, let your customers know. And that's why the Privacy Commissioner has had to get involved to say that you have effectively breached this and you've started to collect this this very important data without the consent of the customers and without letting them know. Now, in this AI technology-riddled world that we're now entering into, and the fact that we're also seeing so many, very encrypted and privatized and very highly secure businesses being hacked, what's to say that despite the fact that they had this data for less than a blink of an eye, that someone couldn't hack into their system and retrieve this data and use it with malintent? I mean, it's really concerning. Another concerning aspect to this is also the fact that they haven't been fined over it, and that they're being asked to kind of reconsider their position on this. At the end of the day, I think that the customers deserve to know this. This is an organisation, by the way, that is earning billions in profits, and they could afford to pay a fine over this. And I still think that they should be made to pay a fine over this. But again, very concerning, and I think that the customers have a right to know.
Okay, all right, let's go to the UK. Farmers there are protesting against an inheritance tax that's coming in, and it will lift an exemption that had previously existed for family farms. A lot of concern that small farms in particular will be forced to sell off land to cover the costs, and that will threaten food security. Jeremy Clarkson, you'll know him well. He's joined the protest on the streets of London and had this to say.
I beg of the government to be big, to accept that this was rushed through, it wasn't thought out, and it's a mistake. That's the big thing to do, admit it, and back down.
I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of people in these protests, Jono. We know the holy grail of the left around the world is inheritance taxes, is death taxes. This will come to Australia if we're not careful, particularly in the age of climate change.
You've got to pay for your zealotry somehow, and as you say, they love this idea because it gets everyone ultimately, except those who leave this planet with nothing to their name, which is probably where their socialist agenda really wants to take us. But I mean, the fact that they want to do this to farmers, the people that are supposed to feed us, and we're doing all of these things to try and make it easier to farm here, to grow more food here, so we're importing less, and it's the same in the UK, hence these protests, is just mad policy where they don't look beyond the end of their arm to see what impact there would be with these laws they're enacting. So good on the farmers, good on Jeremy Clarkson for lending his weight to this. I hope that Albo takes note, because I bet you it's in their bottom drawer, especially if there's a Labor Green government after the election. I reckon this is on their list of things to do.
You are not wrong. So many of the policies, as you and I both know, that Labor implements in Australia have their genesis coming out of the UK Labor movement. All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Jono.